Vinyl siding is by far the most widely used siding and has been for many years. Still, as experienced as vinyl siding installers have become, there's one area that's still too often improperly installed. And that area is at the top of a wall. Siding panels that have become unlocked or fall down because the panels weren't adequately or properly secured. Well, that makes sense, but what does that mean? Well, first let's take a look at what makes fastening these panels different than the rest of the wall. It's difficult, if not impossible, to determine what the height of the last panel will be when you begin installing at the bottom of the wall. Therefore, when you get to the top, you may end up with a nearly full panel, a short panel, or more likely, something in between. One thing that you can be sure of is that you won't have a nail hem to secure the panel. Next, let's talk about some of the improper ways that are used to keep these panels in place. One is called pin nailing. Pin nailing is when you place a nail through the weep holes of the panel into the other panel like that. That method is obviously not going to work long term, because when you place a nail through the weep holes, you're merely fastening one panel to another panel, not to the wall. And with the movement of the panels through temperature changes, along with gravity, the nails eventually work their way out and the panel falls to the ground. Another method is by gluing the panels in place, by filling the bottom lock of the panel with caulking or sealant or glue. This method is particularly troublesome because it causes failures quite often in more than one course at a time, not just one. And the issue can extend along the entire wall, and that's because when the lock is filled with glue and the panel is pushed up into place, quite often a lot of that glue or sealant will find its way around these nails of this course, effectively gluing this whole course to the wall, and then of course gluing this one to this one. So you end up with problems with two courses instead of one because they can't work independently of each other. So what is the right method for securing the last course? Well, there are several. Each one is designed to secure the panels to the wall with still allowing them to move freely. The most common one for fastening the standard vinyl siding is to use an accessory called finish trim. The finish trim is installed at the top of the wall where the siding's to be terminated, and then lugs are snapped into or punched into the last panel about every 6 inches or so. And then the last panel is actually snapped into that finish trim, securing it to the wall but still allowing it to expand and contract and move appropriately. The dual undersill trim is just really an extension of the finish trim idea. This part is particularly useful with Dutch lap panels, but it can be used for anything. With 2 slots, there's an added benefit. It enables you to snap the panels in depending upon the height of your last panel, keeping the profile correct all the way up the wall. Of course, these top panels would be the most secure if they could be fastened in the same way with the same fasteners as the rest of the wall. Well, that's what this two-part system can do. This was originally designed for the thicker, heavier solid core or foam back panels, but it can be used with any of them. And this is how it works. A back plate or receiver is installed at the top of the wall where the panels are to be terminated. Then the panel is cut, and 1¼ inch long nail slots are punched along that cut edge about every 16 inches or so. Then the panel is installed using the same nails or screws that the rest of the wall was in the center of the slots, loosely allowing the panel to be able to expand and contract. And then the finish board is actually snapped into that receiver to conceal all the nails and to give a nice finished look. This same method is very useful for gables as well, so that you're able to nail the long angles up using a nail slot punch, and then concealing those nails as well, giving a nice finished look, and of course keeping those in place as well. Regardless of what method you choose to use, the important thing is to make sure that the siding panels are not only secure from strong winds and storms, but remember, the panels must also be able to move or expand and contract through temperature changes.